I'm so excited for today's goddess. Today's goddess is Maya, goddess of illusion. I did talk about her a little bit today, not a little bit, actually a lot of it, today on my podcast, Life of an Everyday Goddess podcast, available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Anchor, Overcast as well. But I'll go ahead and link it down below in the description area, like I do normally anyway. But yeah, also don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It means the world to me. But let's go ahead and hop into Maya's alignment message. I will start off by showing you her card. She is the goddess of illusion. And I'm really excited to talk about Maya's alignment message because I honestly feel like so many of us are starting to come out of the illusion of who we once were. So many of us are shedding our skin into a new version of ourselves, and I think it is a beautiful, beautiful time to be alive. I know that there's a lot of stuff happening in the world and a lot of people are still, held back on old belief systems. But part of reclaiming your goddess power is to show the world that it's okay to transform, to show the world the divine feminine, to show the world what is possible. So the more of us that really start putting in that work, re-inviting that goddess feminine energy into our lives, the world will start to shift naturally. At least your inner world. Let's start there. As long as we can change your inner world first, then we can worry about all the other stuff later. How about that? I am right there with you. I am still doing a lot of internal work. I feel like internal work is something that you start, and once you start, it's something that you definitely always have to maintain. So never feel discouraged if you find yourself at a lower point, even though you have been doing work, because every step of evolution that we go on, there's always going to be a new layer that pulls back and stuff that we'll have to figure out and sort through. So be easy and be kind on yourself, always, goddess. Nurture yourself and don't ever give up. There's so many people who are rooting for you and that love you. Don't ever forget that. I love you, so don't ever forget that. Let's go ahead and hop into the alignment message. I will go ahead and put Maya's card back up. I love that name too, by the way. Okay, anyways, let's go. The goddess Maya has come to give you some clarity now. How have you been in denial about your life lately? How have you been chasing after an outcome that allures you? Okay, so that is really good for all of us to hear, because a lot of times we hold on to these personas or these security blankets of how we want the world to see us because we're too afraid for them to really see us, like inside, right? I can speak for myself on this, is sometimes I come off as looking a certain way when on the inside I'm just like all mushy and lovey and super emotional and all this stuff, but I've learned to shove all that down because growing up you couldn't cry, you couldn't express your emotions, you had to be toughened up. Even though I am a female, I grew up in a household where I couldn't express my emotions, I couldn't talk about things. If I cried, I was shamed. So in adulthood, I learned how to not do any of that. So now a lot of the inner work that I'm doing is reversing that, is allowing all of my emotions to come forward, allowing myself to really be vocalized of what is eating me up inside instead of shoving it down like I'm so used to doing. Not to say that that work is easy by any means, but it's so rewarding. And also not to say that you have to stay a victim of whatever's happened in your life. Had I not had the childhood that I had, I wouldn't have as much drive as I have right now. I wouldn't have this ambition. I wouldn't have this fearlessness of the unknown. Even though it sucks going through certain scenarios, even though I still get nervous sometimes, I have this fire inside of me that you know what, I can still do it. And that is a positive of the way that I was raised. It molded me to not be afraid of certain situations. So it sucks going through certain scenarios when it's so against who you are internally, but it also builds you and molds you to who you become externally. So don't hold judgment or shame on situations that happened in your life. We all have different situations that happened in our life. Learn to let it go, because if it wasn't Bob or Sally who did anything to you, it would have been Mary and Pam. It's always going to be one person, because your soul needs that lesson in order to evolve, okay, in order to remember, in order to awaken. And I know that is a really hard pill to swallow for a lot of us, including myself at times, because I'm like, why? But why? Because I like to question things. But trust me, once you sit down gather your thoughts, and be recentered and aligned, everything will start to make sense. One of the simplest and easiest ways to start realigning is to be with yourself and really figure out who you are. Who are you? Not who everybody else wants you to be, not who you act like, not what you come off across as, not what everybody wants you to be. Like, who are you deep inside internally? And that is so empowering once you spend that time with yourself and you figure out who you are. So let's go ahead and keep reading. I'm gonna put her back up. Your alignment task is to summon your courage and be willing to see things as they really are, rather than the way you want them to be. Be honest with yourself. Let me read that again. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Like, really be honest. Like, I don't know what somebody else really wants. Somebody else doesn't know what I really want. Like, it's internal. And sometimes we have so many codes and locks, and depending on how many times we've been hurt, like, we don't let anybody in. I'm like that. Like, I don't let anybody in. And it's not up until recently that I started to really feel comfortable in my own skin and allow someone in, and that's given me the courage to allow more people in and more people in. And I feel like now it's an empowering thing where if I can show that it's okay to be vulnerable and make other people comfortable just by seeing my vulnerability, to really tap into themselves and be okay with that, then that to me is a beautiful thing. And that is one of the goals for this last podcast, and that is one of the goals for this video right here, is to show you that it's okay to be vulnerable, that there is somebody out there that's gonna hold space for you. I am somebody who's adamantly never thought that was ever possible. Everything is possible in life, everything, okay? I want you guys to remember that and really let that soak in. Even at my lowest, there was always like a little part of me that always knew that there was always a way out, something different. And I want to share that little part of me with every single one of you and really spark it in all of us, because I don't ever want you guys to feel like there's no other way, there's no way out, and fall into a rabbit hole of depression, because that is not fun at all. So let me go ahead and keep reading. I won't put the card back up because I was noticing it was getting blurry. But when Goddess Maya comes to break illusion and delusion, it is a very auspicious sign. So when you feel like everything is starting to go a completely different way than what you thought, or when things just start happening and you can't explain why, let it happen. Let it happen. Don't run from everything if that's what you're used to. Let go and let be is one of my favorite quotes. I have a lot of favorite quotes, but that's one of my favorite quotes, because when you stop trying to build an illusion, when you stop trying to build walls and you really let yourself come out, everything that's meant for you will start coming to you. And I've seen it happen firsthand for other people. I've seen it happen firsthand for myself. And I want it to happen firsthand for all of you. I love you guys all so much. I tried to keep this episode a little bit on the shorter side because you guys know I can talk forever, but there is more information about Maya and illusion available on my podcast, like I had said in the beginning. Also, if you'd like to keep up with the series, don't forget to subscribe. I love you goddesses all so much. Until next time.